I'm Rhana. I'm one of the educators at the North Carolina Aquarium on Roanoke Island. But I, like many of you, I'm not at work today. I'm in my own yard. And today's series is what we're calling Backyard Biology, because I'm challenging you to go outside and do some exploring. In today's episode, I'd like for us to think about what's going on with all this pollen going all over the place. Why am I sneezing so much? Well, it has to do with what flowering plants are doing this time of year. They are cross-pollinating. They are getting the pollen from the boy plants to the girl flowers, and so we can have seeds and fruits and things like that later on in the season. So I want to show you some of the flowers I've got in my yard and what they are doing for creating that pollen. For example, if we think about this flowering cherry, this is a black cherry, a native to one of our parts of the world. This is a flower that is producing pollen, and those pollen will be moved by bees and other insects to the girl parts and create the black fruits that we see in the fall. This is an example of a flower that is being pollinated by an animal. There are a bunch of plants that use that. So if it's a flower that's pretty, has a loud color, or smells good, it's going to be pollinated by an animal. So this one is pollinated by bees and insects. If we look at the one down here though, this one is called a Columbine. And Columbines are pollinated not by insects. I wonder if you can think about what kind of animal would love to get red flowers and pollinate using their beak to do it. I gave you a hint. Hummingbirds like Columbine. And so they will use that flower to get nectar. The plant gives them nectar, and it's a sweet drink. And then the hummingbird then pollinates the plant, pollinates the flower. Another flower we've got blooming this time of year is one that grows very high up in vines. This is called Crossfine. Again, look at that red flower. Look at that tubular shape. That is an indication that it is pollinated by hummingbirds. So come with me, we're going to go look at some other plants and see if we can find some that are pollinated by insects and some that might be pollinated by the wind. All right, so let's go this way. Now we're going to talk about plants, flowering plants, that don't use insects or other animals to pollinate their flowers. For example, here is a live oak, and you can see these lovely looking flowers. Wouldn't you just love to give this to your mom for Easter or for Mother's Day? I don't think so. This plant does not use animals to pollinate. It uses the wind. And so it doesn't put a lot of energy into building a pretty flower or adding scent or all that kind of stuff. It just uses the wind to bring the pollen to the female part of the flower. Another good example, you might be finding these in your yard. This is to sweet gum. Again, not a flower you'd be pinning onto somebody like a corsage. This is going to be something that uses wind to pollinate. I bet you had a lot of yellow in your car earlier. That was caused by this. This is sometimes referred to as a pine worm. It is the flowering male part of a pine that then uses the wind to blow it. But you know what? You might be allergic to oak. You might be allergic to sweet gum. You're not going to be allergic to pine. Pine pollen is actually pretty heavy and kind of big. It does move on the wind, but it's not going to go up your nose. It's more like an irritant, like too much smoke would be an irritant to you. That's why you cough a lot when there's a lot of pine pollen around. So these are examples of plants who use the wind to pollinate. I want to show you a flower that uses butterflies to pollinate. This is called a daisy. Oxeye daisy has that classic shape that allows a butterfly to land on top and then put their proboscis inside that yellow part. This, if we could see like an insect sees, we would see arrows pointing in on these white petals, because this is where the sweet stuff is, the nectar is for an insect like a butterfly. I wonder if you want to follow me into my garden and see a plant. I'm going to give you a pop quiz. Is it going to be pollinated by a butterfly? Is it going to be pollinated by the wind? Or is it going to be pollinated by a hummingbird? I wonder if you can guess. Help me. You're looking at coral honeysuckle, another one of our native vines that's great to include in your backyard. So my quiz question for you. What do you think is going to be pollinating this? Does it look like it's ugly or doesn't have a whole lot of color or smell to it? No, it's brightly red, isn't it? Is it flat shaped? so it would allow a butterfly to land on it? Not really. It's tubular and red. Who's going to pollinate it? You're right, hummingbirds. I've got another quiz for you. Here is some that have dropped on the ground. Does that look like it's pretty or loud colors or has a lot of smell to it? No. Would you pin that to your mom? No. This is to a red oak. We're standing underneath a red oak right now. This uses wind to pollinate. Well, that concludes today's episode of Pollinators, What's Going Up My Nose? I want to challenge you. Again, get outside, check out your own backyard, and see if you can learn some backyard biology. I'll see you next time.